Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. Awesome honor and privilege to have you guys joining me here today. Now, every day on the John Campea Show in the mornings, that's our main news show. We save a little bit of time for some live questions, but here on Open Mic, that's all we do, just all live questions. Now, I've actually got Comic-Con coming up. Well, we all have Comic-Con coming up. And I just happen to have a lot of things I still gotta get ready for Comic-Con for. So I got some meetings today. So I need to keep today's open mic. Normally I aim for about 45 minutes. Sometimes it goes as long as an hour, but I need to aim today's show to be around 30 minutes. Just so I can squeeze it all in, because I've got, like I said, I got some Comic-Con things to prepare. If you're a Patreon supporter, I have an announcement that I'm going to be putting up, a little video announcement I'm going to put up on the Patreon supporter page this afternoon. Now, I'll be making the announcement to everybody tomorrow, but I want my Patreon supporters to get a little glimpse at it first, so that's going to be going up in a little bit too. So, a lot of things going on today. So, let's not waste any time. Let's get right into the questions. And the first question today comes to us. Oop, that's not the first one. The first one today comes to us from ZOMG Ruler, who writes, was there anything you liked about Affleck in Justice League? Yeah, I mean, there was a bunch. Look, I've said for a long time, I think the Batman that Ben Affleck gave us, the way he portrayed it, was the best incarnation of Batman we've ever had on the big screen. The way Affleck portrayed it. And I stand by that. However, they made some really bad decisions with the characters. And it's a bunch of it has to do with the writing and the story of it. But, you know, there are things that, here's the main thing that disappointed me about Batman and Justice League. And I like Justice League, but this is the thing that disappointed me. And if you guys have watched me for any period of time, you've heard me say this before, but it bears repeating, is that the thing that I loved most about Affleck's portrayal of Batman is better than any other portrayal of Batman. You truly did get the sense that Bruce Wayne was the mask, and Batman is who that person. Batman is his true identity, and Bruce Wayne is the mask. That for all intents and purposes, Bruce Wayne died that night. Metaphorically speaking, Bruce Wayne died that night in that alley with his parents, and what was left was the Batman. The Batman was born, and from that point on, Bruce Wayne became the mask. The true nature of the person was Batman. And we've seen other incarnations of Batman on the screen allude to that, but I don't think any rendition of it ever captured it like Ben Affleck did in Batman vs. Superman. Therein lies my biggest disappointment with the Batman character in Justice League. Was they really backtracked on that. They retconned it. Because whereas in Batman vs. Superman, Bruce Wayne was the mask, Batman was the man. In Justice League, they totally backtracked. And Bruce Wayne was now the man, and Batman was just the mask. Batman was now the persona. In Batman vs. Superman, Batman wasn't the persona. That was his true nature. That was him at his DNA. When we came into Justice League, they retconned that and they said, no, Bruce Wayne is the guy. He's the man. Bruce Wayne is the man. Batman is just the persona he puts on to fight crime. And I hated that. Hated that. Now, there's still moments of Batman, like completely badass when they went down into the subtunnel system, when in their first confrontation with Steppenwolf, and they had all the parademons to deal with and trying to rescue the people, and the way he kind of takes charge and grabs Flash. He goes, just save one. Like that. There was a bunch of stuff in Justice League that I liked about Batman. It's just that it drove me crazy that the best thing about Batman from Batman vs. Superman is the thing they decided to throw away in Justice League. But look, there were a lot of scenes with Batman that I really also enjoyed. There's a ton. It's not just any one thing. Like, is there anything you liked about him? There's a bunch of stuff that I liked. But it's just that I was overall disappointed because of that one big key thing. You know? I know you didn't save me because you liked me. I don't not like you. What? What? Anyway. So there was that. Anyway, KW Garrett writes, People say trans actors can only get cast for trans roles, and that's why Scarlett got flack. She took one of the few trans roles. Casting directors to blame. Well, what KW Garrett's talking about is there was an item we talked about on the John Campea show earlier today, that Scarlett Johansson is getting some flack from people online because they announced this new movie coming out called Rub and Tug, and it's based on a true story about these 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, I can't remember the time era, crime gangster who was a transgendered individual. It was actually a woman who dressed like a man, or something like that. I don't know the full backstory of it, but here you got Scarlett Johansson getting flack. Now, I said there's many different ways to look at this. No way is the wrong way. I'm not saying the way I look at it right now is the right way. Not at all. Let's be clear about that. It's a very complicated, delicate issue. I get it. My point of view right now, which could change in a few months, and I'm open to being talked out of it, is that the job of an actor is to pretend to be someone or something they are not. That's what acting is. Acting is pretending to be somebody or something that you aren't actually. You know, I gave, just for hyperbole's sake, but I gave the extreme examples like, hey, when you're casting German officers in a World War II film, you don't go running out actually looking for Nazis. No, you get an actor to pretend to be something that they're not. And so I have no problem. I really don't think anybody should have a problem with this. Now, as far as the one argument goes about she's taking the job that a transgender actor could play. Well, okay, and this is where I get in trouble. I get in trouble with this all the time because I talk about this on 1,000 different issues when it comes down to who should a studio cast. I get in trouble all the time for this, but I need to be consistent with it. It is not the job of the studio. It is not the job of a producer, and it's not the job of a filmmaker to give opportunities to anybody. It's not the job of a studio or of a director or of a producer. Their number one responsibility is to their own film. That's their responsibility. Their responsibility is to make the best movie possible. Now, there has been a practice in Hollywood, going back generations, of active exclusion, of a policy of exclusion, of forced exclusion, that we are now starting to see Hollywood end that trend and open it up fairly to anybody other than just white, straight male actors. You know, I get in this debate with people all the time. People saying, why is Hollywood all of a sudden forcing diversity? And I tell them, sorry, they're not forcing diversity. They're stopping forced exclusion. Forced exclusion that's gone on for decades in this business. And that needs to stop. It's not forced diversity today. It's stopping forced exclusion. That's the thing. But even in an environment of ceasing forced exclusion, that doesn't mean that a producer or a director or a studio's responsibilities change from being that to their movie. Again, there are different ways to look at it. I completely acknowledge that, and there are good counter-arguments to be made. I'm just saying this is just the point of view I have right now. So I'm just thinking, if I'm a producer and I have this movie I'm going to invest a lot of money in, and I want to get a person in there that'll guarantee I can get the best movie I can, and it'll get the most attention that it can, then getting one of the top 10 best actresses in the world today, one of the most recognizable and celebrated actresses in the world today, in a Scarlett Johansson, one of the most bankable actresses in the world today, then I would be nothing short of a fool to not put Scarlett Johansson in my movie if she's available and wants to be in my film. She's good enough to pull off any role. Now, Scarlett Johansson pointed out herself, it's like, hey, look, this isn't new. Jeffrey Tambor, he played a transgender person. Nobody criticized, nobody protested, and he won Emmy Awards for that. Jared Leto played a transgender person in a movie, Dallas Buyers Club. Nobody argued, nobody protested, and he won an Academy Award for it. bringing tons of positive attention to the people group and bringing tons of positive attention to the movie, and it won them Oscars and all that kind of stuff. An actor's job is to play somebody or something they are not. Now look, if I'm a producer, and I can only speak for myself here, and I'm trying to cast this role, right? We're talking about this specific movie, and I'm trying to cast this role. And you bring to me an actress like a Scarlett Johansson. And then you also bring to me, you're a casting director, and you bring to me a Scarlett Johansson, and you bring to me a transgender performer with equal bankability, equal talent, and equal pull. I can only speak for myself. Well, then I will go, all other things being equal, I will go with the transgendered performer. It just makes sense. However, if it's not an equal playing field, and I believe what is best for my movie is to have this particular person, a Scarlett Johansson, in the film, then if it's up to me, I'm going to go with Scarlett. I will unapologetically go with Scarlett Johansson. Unapologetically. Because my responsibility is to my movie. That's my responsibility. Now, regardless of the topic we're talking about, whether it's, casting for this or directors' control over producers or this, and whenever I come back to it is a job of the studio and producers, their number one responsibility is to the film. I always get people mad at me, and that's fine. If you want to be mad at me just because my opinion's different than yours, by all means, bring it on. Again, I'm not going to die by that opinion. I'm not willing to put $1 billion in that opinion. My opinion could change in the next few weeks. But I just have to be honest with you guys. If you're going to ask me my opinion on it, that's my opinion. Actors' jobs is to play somebody they are not. And if I'm a producer, what is best for my movie? Getting a Scarlett Johansson in it? World-class talent? Major movie star? Which will give instant credibility to my film and get a lot of people more interested than it would otherwise? I'm going with Scarlett Johansson. Now, some people will want to put John, she was in Ghost in a Shell, and Ghost in a Shell didn't do great. Yeah, but I'll tell you what, Ghost in the Shell made about 30% more money than it would have had it not been for Scarlett Johansson in that movie. You can try to argue that all you want, but I mean, common sense just tells you that's the fact. That's just it. It made more money than it would have had she not been in it. It would have done even worse. So, because heavens, you put her in a movie like Lucy, that isn't even all that good, and just tons of people flocked out to go see it. Like, even The Rock has films that don't make, $300 million. Even The Rock has those. Anyway, that's just my point of view on it right now. Again, I may think differently. I may think differently 1 month from now. I may think about it more and then go, you know what? No, I've thought about it more and I've kind of changed my mind. I mean, that's what we as humans do. We marinate on information longer, and maybe we see things from a different point of view, and then we change our minds. Maybe that'll happen here. But just as of right now, this is kind of the way I see it. Anyway, let's move on. Ben Rayner writes, thoughts on Everyone Loves Raymond. I didn't watch a lot of it. The stuff I did watch, I enjoyed. I certainly like Ray Romano as a stand-up comedian. I think he's got some great stand-up comedy. And one of his co-stars, Brad Garrett, he's a great stand-up comedian too. And actually, he's one of the most entertaining guys in the poker world. As many of you guys know, I'm big into poker. And he plays tons of poker, Brad Garrett. He plays in the World Series every year. He's funny. He's great. But I have to admit, I've probably watched about 20 episodes total. I've probably seen about 20 total episodes of Everybody Loves Raymond. So I enjoy what I watched, but I can't pretend that I watched more than I did. So it's not like it's one of my all-time favorites, but I enjoyed what I saw. I thought it was pretty funny. But I definitely like Romano as a stand-up comedian, like a whole ton. Okay, let's keep moving here. Cameron Belgrade writes, thoughts on the film Charlie Wilson's War. Now, that's the one with Tom Hanks, is it not? Let me just double check to me. Because sometimes I start talking about a movie. Oh, yeah, I like it because of this, and this. And then I realize, then all of a sudden, I realize I'm talking about the wrong movie. Yeah, no, it is. It's the one with Tom Hanks and Julia Roberts. Oh, I like the film. Yeah. Was not one of my favorites. Amy Adams, Philip Seymour Hoffman were in there too. Solid cast, good movie. But I remember, I think I might have seen it a grand total of 2 times. I think I was a little bit underwhelmed when you're talking about a cast like that, and it's directed by this dude, Nichols, Michael Nichols. It was directed by this dude, Michael Nichols, who also directed Closer. And so you had that all into it, and based on the story it was based on, I was hoping for better out of Charlie Wilson's War. I liked it. I just be honest with you, I was kind of hoping for better. So that's just me. Let's see. Murray Reich writes, imagine if Metcalf is confirmed to reprise her roles as Andy's mom in Toy Story 4. Laurie Metcalf is confirmed to reprise her role as Andy's mom in Toy Story 4. Over under 20%. We get an Andy cameo in Toy Story 4. I don't see why not. I don't see honestly, I don't see why not. So, I mean, if you're going to have Andy's mom in it, which, by the way, I haven't heard that story yet. So let me just check on something here. All right. Okay, I'm not seeing anything on it right now, but I mean, if that's the case, great. And then if she is coming back as Andy's mom, and Andy's mom is going to be in it, I don't see why Andy wouldn't. I mean, maybe not. He's not a key player. Then again, the humans are never key characters. I'll take the over 25%. I'll take the over 25% that we at the very least get an Andy cameo. I think that's a pretty solid take. Okay. Taki75 writes, how did you experience Titanic Mania back in 1998 in the heart of Cameron Land? Were there any heroes, welcome, and expressions of national pride? No. As a matter of fact, hold on a second here. Let me just look up something here. As a matter of fact, no one ever really talks about the fact that James Cameron's Canadian. So, no, honestly, I don't think it was ever made that big of a deal. I'm looking back at it. I remember going a couple of times to see it in theater. Titanic's a good movie. Look, I know a lot of people got... I know a couple of people got upset at... Not upset, got tired, I should say. I know a lot of people got tired of Titanic because just of how ridiculously popular it was, and it was the biggest box office film of all time for a long time. But you know what? Titanic's a good movie. Titanic's a really good movie. I mean, I saw it again just like 2 years ago, and I remember watching it. It's like, yeah, this is good. You get connected to the character. There's some ridiculous things in it, but even the ridiculous things are utilized in a pretty effective way. Even the most ridiculous things are utilized, like I said, in a pretty effective way. So, hold on a second. I just accidentally skipped over a few questions here. Even the ridiculous stuff was done in a really creative way and in an effective way. And like that ridiculous scene at the end where he's holding on to the wood, I think it's a door she's floating on, which, by the way, there was indeed plenty of room for him to get on. Anyway, even that scene, which is kind of ridiculous and over the top, when you watch it again, you realize, oh my God, this scene is incredibly emotionally effective. It is very emotionally effective. People felt it. I felt it. Most people watching that movie felt it. It's a movie that got kind of hammered because of its overwhelming popularity, so people got sick of it. But, you know, given the devil's due, that is a really good movie, man. It's a really good movie. I know that's not the popular thing to say, but Titanic is an awesome film. And I still know a lot of people today that still haven't watched it, and you should absolutely give it a shot if you haven't seen it yet. Okay, anyway. Murray Reich writes, imagine if the roles were reversed. Kathleen Kennedy kills off Marvel characters while Kevin Feige is criticized for fake Star Wars characters' deaths. If only. Here's the thing. A lot of people still confuse My justifiable complaint about all the fake killing and all the fake deaths in Marvel films, saying, well, so you think they need to kill everybody? No, I don't think Marvel needs to kill anyone. I'm just tired of the, oh, that character died. Just kidding, they're not dead. They have done that so many frickin' times. So many frickin' times. They just keep going back to it over and over and over and over and over and over again. And it's frustrating. But that doesn't mean I think they need to kill characters. Just don't pretend like you're killing characters. And if you do kill a character, kill them. Bye-bye, they're dead. That means they're gone. You know? I just wish they would do that a little bit. And again, I have no problem with them killing off characters in Star Wars. Absolutely none. Nope. Look, if you're in the midst of intergalactic war and you've been in the shit of it for 40 years, a lot of people are going to die. And eventually it's going to happen to the heroes. Like the Millennium Falcon can only be chased by the worst TIE fighter shots in the galaxy so many times before somebody's going to get a hit. You know what I mean? You can only run down a hallway from 55 stormtroopers firing their guns simultaneously and magically they all miss. You can only do that so many times. Eventually someone's going to die. Go walking out onto a ridiculously unsafe bridge with no handrails to confront your son that has a lightsaber, you may die. So I've had no problems with them killing off characters in Star Wars. I would have no problems with them killing off characters in the MCU. Just if you're going to do it, do it. Stop faking it. That's the thing that gets me. And this whole, like the Infinity War thing, you know it's all fake deaths. I mean, you know it's all fake. So, I mean, it just gets me a little bit frustrated about it. Anyway, Ben Rayner writes, I've been waiting for Ant-Man to use A-list, and now theater still doesn't have movie available. And I'm still confused about that. Like, did you call the theater to see, like, are you guys actually not showing Ant-Man? It is going to be the #1 film in the nation this weekend. You can't tell me that AMC Theaters isn't carrying it. They've got to be carrying it. Like I said, but I would give them a call. I would give them a call and say, hey, yo, what's up with this? Is it or is it not? And if it isn't, find your next closest AMC theater and take the drive. Ant-Man's worth the drive. It's a really good movie. Again, like I said in my review, and by the way, guys, on Sunday, we're going to be doing a spoiler review of Ant-Man and the Wasp, a live interactive spoiler discussion of Ant-Man and the Wasp, so make sure you join us on Sunday for that. I think it's probably going to be around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Pacific Standard Time. That'll be 5 p.m. East Coast time, so you got tonight, tomorrow, Saturday to go and see it, and then we'll have our spoiler discussion. But it's worth the drive. If you got to drive 15 miles to go to another AMC, by all means, go to another AMC. It's worth the drive. It's a really fun little film. I think you're enjoying it. It's a true standalone movie, which I love. It is a true standalone movie, which is great. So yeah, and again, call the theater, man. See what's up. Actually talk to a human being, because I find that very odd that a theater chain like AMC would not be playing what's going to be the biggest movie in the country this weekend. Seems very strange. Anyway, okay. Let's see. Murray Reich writes, I'm surprised some people are complaining about Scarlett Johansson's transgender role, yet nobody complained about Ben Affleck portraying an autistic in The Accountant. Smackman. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, that's another good example, I guess. I mean, there are differences clearly, but again, what I go back to, just to compare more, I remember everybody celebrating Jeffrey Tambor playing the character that he played in, what's it called? Transparent. In Transparent. And he won Emmys and everybody celebrated it. Jared Leto plays it in Dallas Buyers Club. Everybody celebrates it. And rightfully so. He was amazing and he won the Academy Award. Jared Leto's got an Academy Award on his mantle for that role, and he deserved it because he was awesome, and everybody celebrated. Why is everybody picking on Scarlett Johansson? Like that's what I just don't get the inconsistency here. Why was it great and celebrated when Jeffrey Tambor did it? Why is it great and celebrated when Jared Leto does it? And you know, I drew a blank, and let me just pull up Felicity Huffman. That's who it was. Why did everybody celebrate it when Felicity Huffman did it. And Felicity Huffman, by the way, got nominated for an Academy Award for doing it, for Transamerica. And she played it, and everybody celebrated it. Everybody thought it was awesome that she was doing it, and that you had a movie with this character in it, and that you got an actress with the quality of Felicity Huffman, and she got nominated for an Academy Award for it. Why does she get celebrated? Why does Jared Leto get celebrated? Why does Jeffrey Tambor get celebrated? But all of a sudden, when Scarlett Johansson comes around is doing it, and it's a great sounding story, and she's a terrific actress, why is all of a sudden everybody got a problem with it now? It's the inconsistency of it that drives me a little bit crazy. So anyway, that's the one that to me is like, again, I think there are valid arguments to be made against my opinion. I think there are many valid arguments. Like I said, I may change my mind in a month or so. But the one part that I do find a bit odd and confusing is the inconsistency in the response. Felicity Huffman does it, yay! Jared Leto does it, yay! Jeffrey Tambor does it, yay! But now Scarlett Johansson's doing it, boo! I just don't get the inconsistency of it. It's the inconsistency that I find odd. So, anyway, that's just me. Okay, let's move on here. Andrew Lee writes, I think there should be a 3-year gap between Star Wars movies, not because it makes them more special, but because Star Wars fans need 3 years away from each other. Unfortunately, it's a very good observation, Andrew, but unfortunately, with the internet being as it is, we are not away from each other. Like, we don't have another Star Wars movie coming out for a year and a half, and we're all over each other. Star Wars fans are all over each other. Yeah, it is really too bad. It is too bad. It's still really a shame. Look, I said from the beginning, nobody wanted a Harrison Ford less Han Solo movie, and it turns out to be correct. And it's too bad because the movie deserved better, because it's a good movie. I even have this one friend of mine who's just not toxic, because he doesn't attack anybody else for their opinion, but oh my God, he hates The Last Jedi so much. Hey, every time he'll text me messages out of nowhere. By the way, Last Jedi sucks. And like all this, like just venomously hated it. He's not toxic. Like he doesn't attack other people if they like it and all that kind of stuff. He's just a film fan who just really, really hated that movie. And he loved Solo. I mean, so you got a lot of people that, because Solo was really well done. Ron Howard did a great job with it, blah, blah, blah. It deserved better. But I almost seem to think you need to get Episode 9 out as fast as possible to try to steady the ship if you can. But I don't know. But it's a very interesting observation, Andrew. Let's see. Murray Reich writes, what I was trying to explain yesterday regarding movie trailers showing too much footage was that they give the whole movie away, i.e. Batman versus Superman. Well, I mean, here's the thing. There have been a lot of times, Murray, that people said, that trailer just gave away the whole movie. And then I watch the movie and go, oh, no, it didn't. That trailer, it gives you the impression that maybe it did, but it really didn't. And I find quite often that's the case. Batman versus Superman, honestly, I didn't feel like it gave anything away. The movie was called Batman versus Superman. So you know, regardless of what you put in the trailers, you know what direction that movie's going, right? You know it's going to head in a certain direction. The trailers decide, like every trailer shows you who the villain is. So the trailer decided to show you Doomsday. Okay. That's nothing unusual. That's not something that most other films don't do. So I disagree. I never felt that Batman vs. Superman gives the whole movie away. And I think most of the time that we feel like a trailer gave the whole movie away, it probably doesn't. You know, it probably doesn't. Sicario Day of the Soldado is an example of a trailer that looks like it gave the whole movie away, and it really does. Like that was a good, that one just gave the whole movie away. It just gave you all the plot points and showed you the plot twists that you otherwise would not have been expecting. And they gave it away in the trailers, and sure enough, that's what played out in the movie. So that's an example of that. So there certainly are examples of what you're talking about, Murray. There definitely are examples. But I also think there's a lot of examples. I remember one great example. It was Kevin Spacey. Hold a second. It was called The Negotiator. Who was in that with him? The Negotiator. It was Kevin Spacey and Samuel L. Jackson. It was a 1998 film. It's a good little film. It's actually a really nice movie. And I remember that was a trailer that everybody was like, what the hell? That trailer just gave the whole movie away. But then you go and watch the movie, it's like, oh, not really it didn't. Not really it didn't. It totally looks like it did, but really it didn't. So there's a lot of that in there as well. So yeah, anyway, that's just kind of how I think about that. All right. Moving past Andrew Oldham now. Sorry about that. Let's see. Ben Kenobi writes, you skipped a few. Yeah, I knew I did. I jumped back and took care of those. Thanks for the reminder, Ben. Murray follows up with, and I'm just about out of time here, guys. Murray Reich writes, is Tommy Lee Jones still making movies? To the best of my, I think he was just in something this past year. Hold on a second. I'm almost positive he was just in something. Let me just double check here. It was like, well, yeah, he was in Shock and Awe. So I remember that. Then he was in Just Getting Started. Not a lot of people saw that, but it was with Rene Russo and Morgan Freeman was in that as well. So there was that. That was all just last year. And now it looks like he's got 2 movies coming up in 2019. He's got a movie called Ad Astra coming out that he's in with Brad Pitt and Ruth Negga and Donald Sutherland. Being directed by James Gray, by the way. And then he's got another movie in development right now that says it's coming out in 2019, being directed by Joe Wright, that he's in with Casey Affleck, called The Stoner. Sorry, not The Stoner, just Stoner. So, yeah, he has been active, and he continues to be active. So, he's still making movies. Patrick Conway writes, Mr. Rogers sides with Team Tony. Are you still Team Cap? Oh, Mr. Rogers wouldn't have sided with Team Tony. No way. Nope, because Mr. Rogers ain't about following the rules. Mr. Rogers is about doing what's right. If you saw my review, you know what Mr. Rogers said to the rules. Mr. Rogers was about doing what was right. And because of that, he instantly would have sided with Team Cap. Instantly would have sided with Team Cap. And then he would have in 5 minutes totally convinced Robert Downey Jr. to join Team Cap as well. How you feeling, Tony? I still bet you feel a little bit sad about that you made those weapons that hurt those people, don't you? But you know what? You did the right thing. And it's all about doing the right thing. We all make mistakes, Tony. But then it's about waking up in the morning and say, you know what? I'm going to do the right thing today. And then instantly, Tony breaks down into tears and he joins Captain America side 2. That's what would have happened. And then he would have totally destroyed Thanos. And the MCU would have been a lot easier had Fred Rogers been in it. Had Fred Rogers been there, instantly would have won. And there is no way he would have been on Team Iron Man. He instantly would have been Team Cap. As a matter of fact, it wouldn't have even been called Team Cap. It would have been called Team Rogers. Which kind of goes along with it because it was Captain Rogers, right? Anyway, so that's how that would have gone. Let's see. Final question today. Tacky75 writes, Titanic would have made $3.6 billion today. Mind-boggling. Well, yes and no. Yes and no. Because you're leaving out an awful lot of other factors. The fact of the matter is Titanic wouldn't have been as successful today as it was when it came out. There's a lot more movies come out every week today than when Titanic came out. You got more crowded schedules. You have new, bigger films, more tentpole films being made every year, coming out in certain intervals. Like Titanic just stayed in the top 10 for some ungodly number of weeks. Something like 20 plus weeks it stayed in the top 10. Maybe it was more than that. And it just wouldn't have happened. So this is a great example of why when people say, John, why don't we take inflation into consideration? Because inflation is just one consideration. Had that movie come out today, it would not have been as successful. It would have been successful, would have been huge, but it would not have been as successful because there's too many other factors at play today. Today you have Netflix and Hulu and Crackle and Google Play and and HBO and Showtime and Starz and all these streaming things competing for your entertainment time. You've got video games that are hugely popular, like $70 a pop, that are competing for your discretionary money that a lot of people are spending on games now instead of going to the movies. You have 3 or 4 other big tentpole films coming out within 8 weeks of you, something that Titanic didn't have to deal with at the time. So it's one thing to just look at the inflation and say, oh my goodness, today Titanic would have made $3.6 billion, which is the correct math. But that's not the story. The story is there's 50 other variables that completely would have prevented it from having the same success that it had at the time when it came out in the 1990s. It's a different world today. So that's a great example, even though I know that's not exactly what you were talking about, Taki, but when people say, you should take inflation into consideration, I say no, because then you got to take all the other things into consideration. Movies today benefit at their box office totals because of higher ticket prices and inflation. Yes, but movies today are also at a huge disadvantage because of the amount of competition, home entertainment options, video games, things eating up discretionary funds, and just a huge plethora of other variables that other films in the past didn't have to deal with. So while your math is correct, I can quite confidently say Titanic would not have, were to open today, it would not have made $3.6 billion. It wouldn't have. And that's why when we talk about all-time box office, I never take inflation into consideration, because then you got to take all the other things in consideration as well. Anyway, so that's just kind of the way I look at it. Okay, guys, that will do it for me. Went a little bit overtime. That's fine. Thanks so much for joining me here today, guys. By the way, for any of you who are Patreon supporters, make sure you check the Patreon page in about 15, 20 minutes. I got a little bit of an announcement I'm making there I'm putting out. Nothing earth-shattering, just a little announcement I'm going to make there that I'll let everybody else know about tomorrow. Anyway, guys, that will do it for me for today. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until our next video, bye-bye.